everybody, Lord Tremendous here. Got another battle report here for you. This is battle report number 6, a 2,000 point battle. 'Tis I, Lord Tremendous of the Orcs, versus Gnome Runner of the Ratkin. That's right, I get to take out some filthy vermin. Or at least attempt it. My Orcs aren't really good at taking a charge or a shot or any kind of nerve test. We'll see. We'll see. It's a pretty solid game, though. We actually use a scenario in this one, and neither of us fully understood it, so it's really great. Anyway, this is a lot of fun, so sit back, relax, and get ready to see how it goes. Here's my list, and it's changed up a little bit because my wife was painting some of the models, so I had to swap around what I took. I still have my normal heroes. I got a God Speaker with Heal and an Inspiring Talisman. I got another God Speaker with Heal and the Scrying Amulet. I've got a Flagger with the Healing Charm, and then in my units, I've got an Axe Horde with the Brew of Strength. I've got a Morax Regiment with the Blessing of the Gods, and I really like that unit. I really wish I was better with it. I did bring one Troll Horde with the Brew of Sharpness, however, that's the only one I brought this one because my wife was at home painting them. Instead, since I dropped one Troll Horde from my original list, I have a Skulks Troop now, and they're just butt naked, and I've got my Gore Rider Regiment with the Chant of Hate. Filling out the rest of my army, I've got 2 units of Orcling regiments. They're butt naked as well. And of course, I brought the legendary War Drum. I have some allies in this list, obviously. I have a Boomer Troop, I have a Red Goblin Blaster, because I love that unit, and a unit of Siegebreaker regiments with the Potion O Caterpillar. Basically, I'm tired of being hindered. That's going to do it for my list. I'm going to post my opponent's list, play some music. Feel free to pause it whenever you like to see what he took. Like I said, we actually did a scenario. We rolled for it and got scenario 3, Dominate. Basically, it's King of the Hill, but yeah, there's a lot of things we didn't read right in this one. So at the end of the game, all units that are entirely, that should be underlined, within 12 inches of the center of the playing area is what your score is. The opponent does the same, and then you compare the amounts, and you have to have at least 200 more points than your opponent to win. So yes, entirely. Yeah, I actually said the word multiple times, but I just wasn't listening when I was talking. Yeah, you'll see how that pans out. Here's deployment, and yeah, I'm looking at a wall of rat flesh here, so I was just like, screw it, let's have some fun. How good in combat could they be? Oh, if only I knew better. Anyway, I pretty much deployed on the right side there. I have my Gore Riders. They're going to try to shoot up the right side and hit something in the flank and hopefully blow through it. The unit that looks like Naiads is actually my proxied unit of Skulks, just trying them out. And I forgot to bring the models with, so I borrowed some of my buddies. Immortan So, thank you very much. Right there next to them are the Siegebreaker unit, and then I've got my Trolls with a unit of Orclings in front of them with the Flagger right next to him, just give him some Inspiring. He's behind the forest, so he's not much of a target right now. And then on the left side there, I've got my Horde OX. I got the War Drums behind them. Next to the War Drums is my Morax Regiment, which in front of them is the Orclings. Next to them is my Boomer Regiment, or Troop. And then behind them is my Scrying Gem wielding, what's it called, God Speaker. And on the left there on the hill is my Red Goblin Blaster. I just love the idea of that thing. It's great. Also, if you look back over by the War Drums behind the Axe Horde, forward, and next to the right of the Morax unit, you can see my other God Speaker that's inspiring, and he's in there just to give heals and general rerolls. That's pretty much it for deployment. Like I said, my plan was to shoot forward and slam into the rats, because I'm thinking they're not going to be that tough. You'll see how stupid that assumption was. Yeah. Here's top one after movement, and I did not get to go first. No, my opponent said, "Have at thee," and he came at me first. Very courageous for rats. Anyway, not a ton of movement. You know, big talk, low action. A couple of units of slaves, like the small one in the center there, it moves forward and kind of cocks an angle a little bit there. One of his units of shock troops, I believe, on the left flank there. He starts coming forward, but not a ton. On the right, the other unit, shock troops. I'm not really sure what they are. They could be slaves as well. On the far right there, they start coming forward, just to kind of block that gap because he knows where the Gore Riders are coming. And really, that's it. Everything else stays where it's at because it's a Ratkin army. It's got some range. So, first things first, his shooters up on that hill take careful aim at my skulks and put 7 wounds? Yeah, 3, 6, 7 wounds on him. It's like, holy crap! I'm sorry, that might not have been the Skulks. That might have been the Death Wheel behind him anyway. The Skulks actually shoot at the Axe unit and do 2 wounds to them. I apologize. The results of his shooting, of course, are my Skulks flee. I don't know, I mean, I was warned not to play Orcs because I guess they like to flee off the table. But, yeah, it happens a lot. 7 wounds, and the unit is done. It runs off the table, and that's it for the Skulks. Gotta say, not a fan. That brings us over to bottom of 1, because there's no combat yet, and I do what Orcs do. I shoot forward. I don't really see any reason to hold back. He's definitely got me outranged. So everything that can advance does. Pretty much right across the board, from right to left. The Gore Riders move up to engage that unit. If they charge me, so be it, but honestly, I'm not sure if they can. I'd have to look at the rules. The Siege Breakers move up, because screw it, charge me, they're just slaves. I'm not all that worried. The Trolls and the Flagger move up on the right side there. On the left side, the Axe Horde, the War Drums, everything just shoots forward. I got to get into these guys as quick as I can, or he's just going to shoot me off the table, as the Skulk showed me. Nothing else really happens during my turn, because I don't have really any range, except for my one God Speaker is able to heal the 2 wounds off the Axe Horde. That's it. My turn's over. Like I said, here's top of 2 after movement, and there's a little bit. His slaves on the right side there, they can charge me, and they do, and they slam into my Gore Riders, and I'm hoping they can handle that charge. It shouldn't be too bad. The rest of his slaves kind of do that pincer movement on the right side there, making my Siege Breakers and my Trolls have to choose. I hate choices, but he kind of blocks me in and gets ready to shoot the crap out of him, which I think was his plan all along. He started doing this weaselly laughing thing. I didn't like it. I found it offensive. On the far left side there, you see his shock troops charge into my Red Goblin Blaster. He did not know what the blaster did, I don't think. Honestly, I can't remember if I told him or not. I might have been sleazy on this one. I apologize, Gnome Runner. I'm a scumbag, but you knew that before we started playing, so I don't know why you're surprised. Anyway, they slam into the Red Goblin Blaster, and while I do have some boomers and stuff that are probably going to take some flack from that, it's still going to be funny when it explodes. And that's really it. The rest of the stuff kind of pivots around a little bit, but for the most part, he stays where he's at, with the exception of units I mentioned, and that's it for movement. Wash, rinse, repeat, his shooters start up, and there's a weapons team right behind that impassable terrain, the rock there on the left, and it shoots at my Siege Breakers because it's a flank, and he gets 2 wounds through. The little bastard weapons team in the front there fires it through that alley right into the Siege Breakers, but Big Shield kicks in, and they only take 1 wound this time. And then both Death Wheels fire at the Siege Breakers. And even with Big Shield, 11, 3, 6, 9, 10 more wounds for a total of 13 hit my Siege Breakers. That's terrible. Oh, man. I did not think he was going to roll that well. He didn't think he was going to roll that well. Both of us were surprised for different reasons. Yeah, it shouldn't come to any surprise. They break. Their nerve check sees them go home. That's not as bad as the Skulkers, I guess. They took 13 wounds. Skulkers only took 7. But that still sucks. Really, really sucks. I think his shooters on top of the hill there fire at my boomers and are able to do 6 wounds to them because the dice gods are fickle scumbags. And the result sees them become wavered, so they're not going to do anything next turn, which really sucks. 6 wounds and they're wavered. That's frustrating. That's really frustrating. We finally get out of the elf-like shooting phase and jump into combat like real men. Well, rats and orcs, I guess. Anyway, his unit of horde slaves slam into my gore riders and do a single wound. And, believe it or not, they actually didn't break en route. So, yay! Yeah, they break off an inch right there and they start rethinking their life choices. This is gonna hurt. On the left flank, his shock troops do much, much better and do 11 wounds to the Red Goblin Blaster. Oh, I was excited, because the boomers have made me upset because they're routed, so they're useless to me anyway. I kind of want them to take some damage, and oh, glorious day. It routs, which is exactly what I was hoping would happen, and explodes. It does a little bit more damage to the boomers than it does to the shock troops. It does 6 wounds to the shock troops, and it does, what was that, 3, 6, 7... 6 or 7 wounds to the guy, so not too many more. Or maybe it was dead even, I can't really tell. It looks like 3, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it does 7, so 1 more to the boomers than to the shock troops, but that was awesome. The shock troops are not affected by the nerve check at all. And then they twist to face that direction. The boomers don't have to take a nerve check because it says friendly units don't have to worry about it. Maybe as an ally it should have, but it was an ally, so I'm not really sure how that worked. Anyway, they turn to face like this after the combat, and they're ready for more fun. So that's enough excitement for the top of 1 turn. Here's bottom of 2 after movement, where the excitement keeps on coming. Not a whole lot going on over on my end. My opponent was able to angle his shock troops on the left there that blew up the Red Goblin Blaster so that my Morax couldn't see him. So the only thing I could think to do is back the Morax up. I put my Inspiring God Speaker guy up there just to fire a fireball at that unit. Maybe disorder him, maybe waver him, maybe nothing, probably nothing. But whatever, I'm going to have some fun with it. And if he charges my Inspiring guy, so be it. It's not going to hurt me anyway at all, and if I lose a God Speaker, I lose a God Speaker. I really don't care. Up front there, the Orclings move up to block the shock troopers from coming too far forward and countercharging my Axe Horde. Meanwhile, the Axe Horde runs into the regiment of slaves, and I'm hoping to just blow those guys away so I can send my my Axe Horde into the shooters and captain on top of the hill there. On the right flank, my trolls can't charge either unit of slaves, they're just too far back, but my Orclings can, so I figured why not, I'll send the Orclings in, that might be fun, and the trolls just kind of maneuver so that they are 12 inches away from both units and they can charge whoever they need to charge. And of course, the Gore Riders charge into the slave horde on the right flank to teach them some manners and respect. That's it for my movement. So in the magic phase, both of my God Speakers fire fireballs into the, what is that, the shock troopers or whatever, and I think that says 17, something like that. Is it 17? It does a lot of wounds. They're combined fireballs, or they're dual fireballs or whatever. They do a lot of wounds. I'm very actually pleased because let's be honest, Fireball doesn't typically work out for me, and that much damage on that unit makes it's real close to breaking. I was so disappointed. I missed routing this unit by 1. It ends up disordering or wavering or whatever it is. Not routing, but it can't charge next turn. It can't do anything, so that is awesome. If my boomers can do something next turn, they could potentially shoot them off the table. If not, another dual fireball should do it. So that's outstanding. I'm going to take care of one of his more elite units with fireballs and a blaster. That's it for the pansy phase, though. We go into combat, and I start off with my Horde Brick of Axe because I want them to do something. And they do. They do 9 solid wounds to that regiment. Not terrible. I'm not rolling out of the box. I'm rolling pretty average, and I'll take it. 9 wounds is not terrible. I mean, they're only slaves. They're not going to stick around for too long, and 9 wounds was enough to motivate them to go home. We kill all of them. I mean, let's face it. We're a horde of Axe. We're not going to let these guys get away. We murder them all right in front of the shooters, and then all 40 of them point at the shooters, because Daddy wants some. I angle around a bit because while my intent was to send the Axe Horde into the shooters, they're farther than 10 inches away. So I moved around to look at the elites. I was like, you know what? I might have to kill these guys. And yeah, I can't complain. So, well, this way I'm prepared for anything. And yeah, that's where they end up. The Gore Riders are next, and they do 10 solid wounds to the Slave Horde that had the audacity to do 1 wound to them. And that's enough to motivate them to shuffle loose their mortal coil. My Gore Riders shift around a little bit like this, so I can charge either a Death Wheel or the rear of one of his other slave breaks, or whatever I want to charge is available next turn. Stupid excited. So the Orcling troop, regiment, they are just psychotic. They attack this slave unit and are able to do 6 wounds. They hit and wound with half their attacks. I really underestimate Orcling regiments. I should do just hordes of Orclings and be done with it already. They're amazing. 6 wounds, needing 5s and 5s, with Vicious. Oh, I really like these little bastards. 6 wounds, unfortunately, is not enough to motivate this horde brick of slaves to return home, and I just back up an inch away from them. Still, that's outstanding. That's the end of the combat phase, so here's top of 3 after movement, and the rats are pissed. The right flank scatters. They don't want to be there at all because they don't want to catch the Gore Riders in the flank or the rear or anything like that. So the Death Wheels scatter. One Death Wheel goes over towards the middle there. He's going to try to shoot at my flag or anything else. The other Death Wheel starts shooting towards the middle of the table to go after the Axe Horde. On the 2 units of slaves, the Horde brick goes into the Trolls just because they want to do something before they go away. The other unit charges into Orclings, probably to get sweet revenge. I believe his captain charges down the hill and into my Axe Horde, which is fine. The other unit of shock troops charges into my Orclings, and that's perfectly fine as well. And his unit on the far left flank, I believe he forgets about, since he can't do anything. Well, they can't really charge or anything this turn. I think he just kind of forgets about them and leaves them still. A couple of weapons teams on the right flank. Well, one of his weapons teams on the right flank move over to shoot at the Gore Riders and give him something to charge next turn, because, you know, he's a gentleman. And that's pretty much it for his movement. In the Pansy phase, the one of his casters is able to get Bane Chant off on this unit of slaves, which should be illegal. I'm sorry. The weapons team opens up on the Gore Riders and does 3 more wounds to them, which isn't enough to make them go away, but that definitely starts wavering them a little bit. Their nerve check is awful. And then we go into sweet combat. The slave unit in the Trolls does not disappoint. I was very surprised. They did 6 wounds to my Trolls. That hurt. I'm really kind of hoping that with heal and regen, I'm able to fix that before next turn, because there's a lot still coming at me. But I passed my nerve check, and they back off an inch. So over here, this horde of slaves, they slam into the Orclings, and they do 3, 6, 7 wounds to them, which is approximately what they got done to them, and they didn't have Bane Chant. Orclings are better than slaves. Unfortunately, unlike the slaves, the Orclings don't have the intestinal fortitude to stick it out, and they are routed. The slaves pivot around to face towards the Gore Riders. They're going to try to countercharge them after they take out the weapons team, and that's fine. Bring it on, slaves. In this combat, the captain is able to do 3 wounds to my axe unit. I was stunned. But, yeah, that sucks, and now I gotta kill this guy and go through him, because he's not an individual, so now his guy's gonna be able to come after me. I might not have fully thought this one through. Okay, so the shock troops against the Orclings here are much better than the horde of slaves. They do 18 wounds to the Orclings. They did things to them there aren't even words for. It was horrible. Not surprising, the Orclings do not deal with that very well and are destroyed. They spin around like that to look over at the axe unit, and I realize I walked into a really well-placed trap. If I charge with the axe unit into the captain, the shock troops are going to give me no problem, and probably the shooters up on top of the hill. If I don't, the shooters on the hill and the shock troops are still going to be able to charge me. I'm screwed either way. Very well set up by my opponent, and I hate him a little bit for doing it. Which brings us to bottom of 3 after movement. So on the left flank there, I decide my fireballs, my unit boomers are and should be enough to take care of that shock troop unit on the left flank. So I risk it. The Morax unit turns looking to center it so they can hopefully countercharge whatever probably takes out the Axe Horde. The Axe Horde goes after the captain because I figure, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do anything else, but hopefully I can take the captain out, get those points, and maybe I'll get lucky in the shock troops and the shooters will flub because I got no other answer for it. Like I said, my opponent has completely outplayed me there. And yes, there's a death roller in the center behind that impassable terrain, the rock. So they're going to get hit on all sides. It's going to be real bad. On the right side there, the trolls go into the slaves to try to finish them off. The flagger stays behind them because he don't want to die, and the gore riders slam into the weapons team, if nothing else, to stop it from shooting at me. After that, I'll arrange them so they can go after either slave unit, whichever one, if both, whichever are still alive, and hopefully kill them before they can take out my trolls. And that's it for my movement. Between my healing charm on my flagger and their regeneration, 2 wounds come off of the trolls, so there's 3 left on them total. Actually, I think it's more than that, but either way, 3 wounds are all that's left on the trolls afterwards, which is huge. I really like regeneration. And then both my God Speakers and my Boomers open up on this shock troop unit, and it's glorious. They're up to like 26, 28 wounds. All I have to do is not roll Snake Eyes, and they're gone, which is just outstanding. I don't have to worry about this stupid unit anymore. And then the worst thing in the world happens. I roll Snake Eyes. Yeah. That unit is not only still there, it's going to devastate me. My boomers are gone. Absolutely gone. In fact, if he does it right, he'll take out a God Speaker and then my boomers. Snake Eyes. I hate the Dice Gods. Hate them. And then I do the only thing I have left to do, and that is beat things to death in close combat. My Gore Riders are able to do 13 wounds to this weapons team piece of garbage, and unless I roll snakes, he's probably gonna go. And I do. I kill him. And I send the Gore Riders forward because I want the slaves to come after me, not my trolls. I need to get into them. I need my Gore Riders to kill more fast. And I'm pretty confident that the slaves aren't going to be able to do a whole lot to them. So they move forward, I think about 4 inches, 5 inches. The trolls go up against the slaves over here and do 10 wounds to them in total, which, considering they only have 18 attacks, is not terrible. They are a horde brick, unfortunately, and in my opinion, the slaves have a little bit too high of nerve. I mean, maybe I don't understand something. Maybe I'm stuck in old ways of thinking. It's a very good possibility. But they're able to make their nerve check, or I don't roll high enough on their nerve check, and I back off an inch. That kind of sucks. And my Axe-Horde attacks the crap out of this captain and is able to do 12 wounds to him, which is outstanding. I'll take it. They're not the greatest at fighting, they're not the greatest at taking a hit, but you know what? They're mine, and I'll take what I can get. The nerve check sees the captain fall to pieces, and that's excellent. Still got outplayed, but at least the captain won't be at the victory party. Which brings us into top of 4, and oh, the left flank makes my stomach hurt. He, of course, intelligently takes his shock troops of legend and slams them into my boomers. Yay, could have went after the God Speaker, but at this point, the gods just gave him a freebie, and he doesn't want to take a chance, so he slams right into the boomers. He just needs to do 1 wound, and they're gone. They're already sitting on a ton of wounds as it is. Oh, this shouldn't be happening. In the center, everything comes down. The shooters, the shock troops, the death wheel, everything slams into my Axe Horde. And all I can do is hope against hope that they roll poorly and he can't get past their nerve check. It's pretty high. They're only sitting on a few wounds currently, but I've got no inspiring over there. Nothing to protect them. Completely outplayed, and I'm about to pay for my stupidity. It makes me sick. On the right flank, the slaves go into the Gore Riders, the other slaves go into the Trolls, the Death Wheel comes around a little bit, the other one comes around a little bit. I'm sorry, the one Death Wheel did not go into the Axe Horde. And his other weapons team or caster just moves into the middle to give off Inspiring and try to Bane chant someone. That's it for his movement. So we go into the magic shooting phase, and I forgot, his slaves did not charge my trolls. He decided to use range attack to try to take them out. And so his first caster fires a lightning bolt into him and does a few wounds. His death wheel takes a pot shot at him, is only able to do a couple of wounds, so that wasn't terrible. It could have been a lot worse. His other death wheel also shoots and does 2 wounds to the trolls. So, again, this could be a lot worse than it is. It still sucks. I mean, as you can see, the wound tokens are really stacking up. But, you know, they could make it. They could stay. It's possible. And they do. They stick it out. They do not flee. Mostly thanks to the reroll from the flagger. They are wavered. They're not going to be able to charge or anything next turn, but at least they're still here. That buys the Gore Riders a chance to take them out. Or at least he concentrates everything over there, and maybe I can still try to pull this out. We'll see. We'll see. Combat kicks off, and the slaves that ran into my Gore Riders are able to do 6 wounds to them. I wasn't expecting that much damage. That really sucks. Oh, if these guys break the slaves, I'm going to be heartbroken. Or courage. There's just no such thing. They break like the cowards that they are. I swear to God. When a horde of slaves is braver than your Gore Rider horde, it's painful. Painful. But, yeah, they break, run, and then the slaves turn to face over where the trolls are at. This combat over here. So the shock troops and the shooters, they decide that this is their opportunity. They're really going to shine in 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 wounds is done to this unit. On top of the 3 they were already carrying for 25 wounds on this unit. He put so many wounds on this unit. As you can see, I ran out of wound counters and had to throw a die on there. Oh, my only hope is Snake Eyes. Yeah, the dice gods don't decide to favor me with snakes. Apparently, they already gave me snakes, just not in the way I wanted. And my axe horde, understandably, breaks and flees. I'm not even mad. My opponent played that so beautifully, it should be a poem. Same thing happens over here. I don't even bother to put down wound tokens. He does so many wounds to these guys. I think he did like 15 wounds to the boomers, and they were already carrying a shitload. So they break and die. Horribly routed. Oh, it's so bad. That unit shouldn't be there. Oh, well. And then he just reforms like that to go after the Morax that are completely out of position to deal with them now. This is so bad. I'm going to fireball them next turn, of course, but if they aren't gone, my entire left flank is going to shatter. Here's bottom of 4 after movement. Not a ton. Not a ton at all. My Morax can't do anything, so they just try to back up. As you can see, the shock troops actually shifted a different direction after everything was said and done. So my Morax back up a little bit. I'm trying to get out of his charge arc. The shock troops and everything up there, they all reformed and stuff like that after destroying the Axe Horde to face the Morax unit. I'm super screwed. My God Speakers are surrounding the shock troops in order to try to fireball them to death. Hopefully it's enough. I don't have a whole lot of hope. My trolls, they just back up a little bit because they're wavered on the right side, and that's it. My war drums, I think, charged the flank of the shock troops just because they got nothing else going on right now, and that's it. I am screwed. Regen and the healing charm from the flagger gets the troll unit down to only 5 wounds on him, which is a lot better than it was before. I think they were at 12, 5 to, or 10 to 12 or something like that. So that's much better, but they're still in a lot of trouble. They're about to take some serious damage next turn. My God Speakers both hit this unit with Fireball, and I only do 2 wounds. Oh, the Dice Gods, they're fickle, evil pieces of garbage, but I do 2 wounds, 1 from each God Speaker, into this unit. Oh, and they rout. Oh, thank God. I was positive that I was going to roll Snake Eyes again, and I was just going to get wiped out by that unit. But they're gone, and that's huge. We go into the only combat that I have, and the War Drums are actually able to put a wound or 2 on these guys. Not terrible. It is not enough to so much as waver them, and they back off an inch and accept their fate. The war drums are legend, have lost their tune. I didn't expect them to break them. I just like doing the crazy charges. And that brings us to top of 5. Shock troops on the left flank slam into my God Speaker because they were in range. In his rear, that's not sexy. The slaves slam into my trolls, the death wheel slams into my trolls, and everything else just kind of giggles. Why he didn't charge his shooters into my war drums? Probably because he has a better shot at them. It's all bad. I'm barely holding on. I'm sad. But that's it for movement. I mean, a couple of things in the middle move around, but really that's the important stuff. We open up into a shooting phase, and I believe it's the death wheel that fires at the war drums first, doing 3 wounds to him. And then the shooters pop off at him, only doing a single wound more. Are the dice gods starting to pity me, or are they just laughing too hard to care? Let's find out. Turns out they might be pitying me, because the war drum sticks it out. Anyway, we go into combat, and yes, the shock troops do 9 wounds to my God Speaker, which actually is pretty bad. They were hindered, that had a lot to do with it. But, yeah, 9 wounds. Not terrible. It's not great, his leadership is garbage, but he might survive this. My opponent rolls Snake Eyes. Can you friggin' believe it? After what happened on my left flank, his shock troops would have destroyed my God Speaker, overran into my Morax unit, taken them out as well, and completely won this game. There would have been nothing I can do. Now, not only is my God Speaker alive and well, my Morax unit has a delicious charge into his flank. Yeah, they're going to be hindered. Who cares? Flank charge with my Morax unit into his shock troops. Holy crap. Over here, it's, again, not terrible. 4 wounds. 4 wounds, all he could do. It's still enough to break the unit, I'm sure, but 4 wounds. Wow! The Dice Gods, I swear, I hate them because they're not consistent at all. I don't know who they like. I feel like they're playing with my emotions. Trolls live. They're wavered after the fact, and again, thank you, Flagger. But yeah, trolls aren't going anywhere yet, and with regen and the healing charm, there's a chance they'll stick around. Very hopeful. Very, very hopeful. Okay, this is it. This is where I gotta make it count. The Morax go into the shock troops. The God Speakers move around. One is gonna try to heal my my God Speaker that took 9 wounds. The other one is just pleased to be there. The war drums come running over just in case to try to help out. My trolls back up a little bit further into the forest. My flagger backs up a little bit further into the forest. I'm trying to get my models. I'm going to make, on turn 6, I'm going to make a rush for the center of the table and hopefully have more in the middle. And with a little luck, I'll be set. Now, I say all this to kind of set this up. My opponent thought the center of the table was like 12 to 18 inches from the long board edges. He thought all of that was the center of the table. Again, we misread the rules. We didn't understand. I thought it meant in the center of the table too, but I thought any unit that was within 12 inches of the center, not entirely within. So a lot of misunderstandings on how this scenario worked. However, we're both playing the way we think it's supposed to go. We're obviously not talking about it because we don't want the other person to know our strategy. So I'm hoping that turn 6, I can shoot everybody towards the center, get them in there, and maybe squeak this one out. But that's it for my movement. So regen and heal don't do a whole lot for the trolls this time. I think they've got 3, 6, 7 wounds out of 11. So only like 4 wounds get healed total. Only 2 from the healing charm. Well, which is actually really good. But yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. They've taken a lot of damage, and it's kind of hard to grow it all back every turn. So I'm not sure how much longer the trolls are going to last. My God Speaker is able to take 2 wounds off my other God Speaker. Not that 7 wounds is going to really, help keep him on the table or anything like that unless you roll Snake Eyes. But it's better than 9, so we'll see. We go into combat, double my attacks, flank charge, and I'm hindered. I end up doing 6, 12, 18, 21 wounds to this unit. On top of the 2 that were already on him from the war drums, 23 wounds are currently on this unit. There's a real good chance they're gonna break. And they rout! They rout! So the Morax destroyed them thanks to the dice gods giggling their little sadistic hearts out. The Morax unit turns around to face at the shooters, and I've got a chance. It's a slim one, but I've got a chance. So here's top of 6, and the slaves go back into the trolls. They're going to keep on beating on us for a while. Hopefully they can hold out for another one. Other than that, nothing else really moves. If you see, he thinks he just needs to be in the center, I think within 12 to 18 inches away from the long board edges. So that's why my opponent's making those moves. If you notice the big horde brick slaves that took out the Gore Riders, they're sitting right there away from the center. He's not trying to get closer to the center. I didn't realize what he thought. We weren't talking about it because we didn't want the other person to know our strategy. But he's thinking that he's getting points for everything because he's just got to be in the middle of the table, not within 12 inches of the center. So, yeah, it's just a misunderstanding of the rules. Excuse me. Anyway, that's really it for his movement. His Death Wheel moves out of the way a little bit. His caster continues to follow the slaves to try to get Bane Chant off on him, and that's about it. In the Pansy phase, his Death Wheel opens up on my War Drums, and it puts a bunch of wounds on him, probably enough to take him off the table. Just to be sure, though, his shooters follow up and lay down some shots at him, putting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 more wounds on him, which... not sexy, these things. Again, for some reason, Orcs have terrible nerve. And he breaks and runs. I'm not surprised. I know his nerve check is garbage. I know he's a support unit, really not made for anything else. And his wounds did help take out the shock troops. So, all in all, not terrible. But yeah, the war drum is gone, and my heart is sad. And I was wrong. His slaves did not charge into the trolls, so instead he fires a whole bunch of shots with his casters, his weapons team, and his Death Wheel, but being in the forest helps a little bit, and while I do go up to 4, 8, 9 wounds, I stay. Not only do I stay, I am not wavered or disordered or routed or anything of the sort. I get to charge next turn. That's awesome. So we're at the bottom of 6, and I move them all out as close to the center as I can get. The Morax guys run forward. The God Speakers hold back a little bit because I just didn't want them to get shot off the table in case we went into turn 7. The trolls charge, and the Flagger moves towards the center as well. I wanted to keep within 6 of the trolls. I wanted to keep them in the forest. I was a little nervous, and I figured, you know what, if it goes to turn 7, it'll give me a chance. If it goes to turn 6, well... maybe I'll be able to get some stuff closer, we'll see. But again, I also thought that the center of the table is where that big red dice was. Turns out the center of the table is closer to the left side of that impassable rock terrain that the red dice is sitting on. So, all sorts of misunderstandings about how this works and where everything was. But that was why I moved like that, and that was my movement. Between regeneration and the healing charm, my trolls go down to 4 wounds, which is outstanding. That's the reason they've been sticking around so long. The trolls have done amazing this game. We jump into combat, and my trolls are able to do 7 solid wounds to this unit of slaves, bringing them up to 17 total, I believe. It's actually enough, and the slaves break, and they're gone. I end up just keeping my trolls pretty much right where they are, because if his Death Wheel charges in, I want it to be hindered, and yeah, I'm suddenly thinking that there's a possibility I could pull this off. That is exhilarating. I don't mind telling you. We roll to see if the game ends, and it does not. So here's top of 7 after movement, and that sucks. So, turns out that his slave unit did not break and die. We check after, or he says something, we check afterwards, something about rally, and they actually stick it out. So, they're back, and they both charge into my trolls, the Death Wheel, and his slaves. The shooters and the other Death Wheels slam into my Morax unit, and the rest of his stuff just kind of stays where it's at. That's it for movement. In the Pansy phase, he's able to get Bane Chant off on his slaves, because I'm pretty much screwed. And we go into combat. This one's going to be rough, right? But I'm lucky the Morax unit, the shooters, and the Death Wheel are hindered because they ran into the terrain. Still, they're able to do 7 wounds, which isn't terrible. Who knows what it would have been if they weren't hindered, but my opponent did roll pretty well. 7 wounds on my Morax regiment. Their nerve check sucks. But they make their nerve check. My opponent rolls low. Not Snake Eyes, but low enough. I'm not even wavered. I get to countercharge next turn, and I couldn't be happier. Things here don't go quite as well. at all. As you can see, there is a boatload of wounds done to my trolls. And what is that? 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 wounds on them. They're not sticking around for this one. Let's just be honest. And yeah, like I said, they're gone. He doesn't roll snake eyes again. I couldn't get that lucky twice. And they rout. Oh, that rally rule is powerful. What can you do? This one, it was like, oh, it's like getting the rug pulled out from under you. It's like, oh, I got it. There's a chance. Oh, sad. Well, what can you do? That brings us to bottom of 7, and there's nothing I can do. I throw my flagger towards the center of the board. The Morax Regiment slams into the Death Wheel, because I figured that's the thing I have the best chance of breaking with a nerve check. And the 2 God Speakers run forward as well. That's all I got left. That's all I can do. Hoping against hope, both my God Speakers use Fireball against the shooters, hoping to maybe make them break, and I think I'm able to do 3 wounds to the unit, which isn't going to rout them, but it felt good to burn them a little bit. And we go into combat. It's short and sweet. I'm able to do 9 wounds to his Death Wheel, which, considering I was hindered, well, not hindered, I'm sorry, because there's a counter charge, but all things considered, I was pleased. 9 wounds on the Death Wheel is outstanding for the Moraxes. And it worked! The Death Wheel broke, it's routed, and gone. Right at the end. I move forward so I'm an inch away from the shooters, and that's all I can do. I'm hoping against hope now that I've got enough to either pull this off or at least come close, but I had no idea. But there it is, there's the end of the game, and it was brutal. I mean, there's not much left even on my opponent's side. He's got a couple of hordes of slaves, a Death Wheel, a couple of a character, I think, a weapon team, and his shooters. I've got, of course, just my Morax, a Flagger, and a couple of God Speakers. The God Speakers are well out of range. The Morax might be in range. The Flagger definitely is. But my opponent doesn't have a whole lot in range. So, again, he thinks that it's the whole center of the board 12 inches away from the long edges. If you're in there, it counts. I'm thinking that the center of the table is right where that white die is on top of the red die. Turns out, no, that's not the case at all. Again, it's at the very left edge of the foam rock there in the center of the table that the red die is sitting on. That's actually very close to where the center of the table is. So this is all sorts of crazy. If my opponent had realized where things were supposed to be and how this scenario is supposed to work, it would have been much different. But we'll get to the recap right away, because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So, in the end, it turned out to be a draw for Lord Tremendous. I got 300 points out of him. Well, I had 300 points left on the table, and or in the center, and he had 460 for a difference of 160. Honestly, this should have been a victory for Gnome Runner, but we didn't fully understand the scenario. I thought that the center of the table was further over to the right. I did not realize that the entire unit had to be within 12 inches of the center in order to count for points. My opponent thought that the center of the table was anywhere 12 inches away from the long edges, and you only had to be partially in. It was a lot of mistakes made. Had we both better understood the scenario and the way this game played out, Gnome Runner would have won. So while officially, as official as a friendly game can be, it was a draw. Everybody who watches Battle Report or played the game knows that Gnome Runner had me dead to rights. I came to a lot of conclusions in this game. I realized a lot of things about my playstyle and just me in general when it comes to Kings of War. Number one, I don't play Orcs well at all. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think they're the right army for me. I think their playstyle and my playstyle don't mesh. It's just too much conflict, too much friction between the way I want to play them and the way I would have to play them in order to make them work. So I think I'm going back to Ogres. I like their unit choices better. I love Siege Breakers. I really do. I miss having a big monster on the table, stuff like that. And honestly, I also kind of need the bases that I put the Orcs on for my Varangar army that I'm slowly but surely putting together. So, yeah, I think this will be the last time I play the Orcs, so in the future, expect to see Ogre battle reports until my Varangar army is prepared, if I'm saying that right. It's the V word, that's all I know. The Ratkin are so much better in Kings of War than anything else I've ever faced when it comes to a rat army. My preconceived notions of what they can do and what they can actually do were so far off. Like the Hordes of Slaves actually being able to stand up to anything. This was a really intense game, though. The shock troops on the left flank getting snakes and taking out my boomers and possibly just crumbling everything. The shock troops that that ended up getting snake eyes against my God Speaker so that my Morax could flank them. Just an incredibly intense game. So many weird changes, so many weird times, and I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready! Stupid amounts of intensity. The trolls taking charge after charge, shot after shot, and still making it thanks to regen and a healing charm. Yeah, they fell in the end, but dozens of wounds. It was so crazy. Such a good game. But like I said, really, really good, really, really intense game. Really enjoyed this one. You know, Kings of War, you look at it, you're like, this is a simple game. And then you play it and you're like, what the crap did I just get into? Oh, super cool, intense opponent. Zelda would be so proud of him, and I cannot wait till our next game. I would love a rematch. By the way, my group, myself included, have registered and paid to go to Lone Wolf in Dallas, Texas for in April of 2018. Yay! Looking forward to that. I mean, we're all new to Kings of War. God knows we're not going to place well. I'm not going to place well. Maybe my buddies will. I don't know. But it's a great tournament. We used to go back when Warhammer Fantasy was a thing, and always had a good time there. It was one of the first GT. It was the first GT I ever went to in my wargaming career, and it's actually great that I'm now playing a game where I can actually go back and do something like this at the Lone Wolf. So if you're going to be there and you don't hate my guts, come on over, shake my hand, let's get a game in, let's get something to drink, fuck it, let's just shoot the shit. It'll be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it. So expect to see a lot more games, a lot of practices and stuff like that. Hopefully my Varangar army will be ready by then, but if not, I'll play my ogres. So either way, should be a blast. But that's going to do it. Battle Report number 6 is officially in the history books. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Oh, a lot of talking in this one. 7 turns. They make the battle reports a little bit longer. I apologize. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks.